Hello, my name is Ramon Valdez, and this video is about maintenance of a large router. This is a Porter Cable 7539, and specifically, I'm going to be replacing the top and bottom bearings. It's not this exact router, but it's identical to it, same model. On another one, I've already taken it apart slightly, and I'll let you hear what that sounds in the video. It's nasty. The bearings are going bad. Anyway, let's get to it.
Oops, I lied. I did not get audio of the bad bearing sound, but trust me, it's screeching and just sounds ugly, and a bad bearing will just wind down super fast. I mean, it's obvious that something's wrong, and it's not going to get better on its own. If yours is variable speed, just pay attention to how this switch looks as it comes out. It has this little notch that corresponds with that little nub, right? Set all that stuff aside. Now we can remove this top plate. In the center of that top bearing, there is a little Allen key that spreads these conical shaped wedges to hold that in place, I'm assuming. Anyway, we'll remove that. Periodically, I like to clean the plunge action of these plunge routers. Yeah, and they just get kind of gunky inside, debris, sawdust. We'll do all that upon reassembly, and I just clean inside those cylinders with some lacquer thinner on a rag. The springs stay pretty clean, and then I coat the outside of the cylinders, or the inside of the mating part, with like a light oil, light machine oil. This collet can come off. We'll clean that later. And now we can remove these 3 screws. This holds the bottom bearing assembly in, I believe, if I remember right. I've done a few of these, but it's been a long time. And there you can see the culprit in its squealing glory. We'll get that removed. See if we can find a bearing for this thing. At this point, we can separate the motor casing halves, I guess you'd call that. Anyway, take the top section away from the bottom. And those are just kind of fit together, but sometimes they're kind of tight. We'll see how this goes. So far, so good. With the top screws removed, we can start to remove the handles from the aluminum casting. Oh yeah, and then this little dude fell out. So this is the little keeper that holds the plunge action in place. It's a little brass dude that lever pushes and tightens against one of the shafts. Just be careful with that. It's easy to lose as I haphazardly throw it on my bench. In this particular router, there is Torx and Phillips screws. And I apologize, I'm a little out of frame here. The plastic handle halves are Torx, and then there's a couple of Phillips screws that are connecting the handles to the casting. It seems as though the head type could be the same. They don't care about us. And a similar situation on the other side. Now on the trigger side, we have a ground screw that shares that connection point going into the aluminum casting. All right, everything's loose. This should come apart, separate. Oh yeah, first we need to remove this bearing housing, and it should slip off the shaft, the top of the motor shaft. And yeah, this is probably a really boring video unless you're specifically doing something like this, but it's an easy fix, easy repair, and after a few bucks, you're going to have a router that's just like brand new. All right, that slipped off pretty easily, and this top bearing, it felt okay, but you know, we're changing the bottom bearing. There's really no use to leave this one in there. They have the same amount of miles, right? Change them both. Here I remember being too lazy to go get a thinner screwdriver. But yeah, come on, baby. There it goes. It's starting to move. Now, you don't have to remove the brushes. That shaft will slip, you know, the armature will slip past them. But now's a good time to look at them, make sure they're in good shape, check the length, all that jazz. So we'll take one side off. So this actually surprised me. I have a new set of brushes, and I could compare their length to these. And these are maybe over half their length of new. And so, yeah, these should be fine. It's only been connected for 25 years. All right, there we go. Coming loose. Takes patience, yeah. And yeah, this is feels gravelly. It's bad. So I grabbed a socket to match the wrenches, 1/8", or let's see, 1.125 times 25.4, 28.5 millimeters. And an impact. You need an impact to get these off. And I'm an amateur, so I just grabbed that armature with a rag. Could probably use a glove, but they're really not that tight. They come right off. A couple of quick smacks and the shaft should release from the interior part of the bearing. Bottom bearing. And you're next. Bearings like these can be held in with Loctite. Sometimes they'll need heat, but usually they'll come right out. We'll give it a try. And I have access to bearing pushers, like a bearing pusher kit at my dad's house, but found a socket that fits in there, put an extension on it, a couple of smacks. I could see that it started to move. Yeah, that is ugly. And this dude, the top bearing, we could do the same thing and drive that out. This guy was a little bit more stubborn, so I put it directly over the leg of my bench. And there it's super solid, and I think it'll give up. There we go. Nice. And inside this housing, I could see a little bit of blue Loctite. We'll clean that up. So, of course, bearings, when they're being removed or replaced, you can destroy them, taking them out. It doesn't matter. But putting them back in, they need to go in straight, so I thought I would make something. So in my junk, I found what I believe was an old axle. And this is pretty ugly and crude, but it's going to work. You can see the end was cut with a bandsaw at some point. We need to true that, face cut that. That looks a lot better, yeah? And man, this dang thing was hard on my little lathe. I said hard on. I should have taken it to my dad's and used a bigger lathe, but I got it. So before I started assembly, I used compressed air to blow everything out. This thing had a bit of a bird's nest. And if you remember, I had taken one of the brushes out. I'm going to reinstall that, and I'll show you how I deal with that spring here in a bit. Here's the thing about most bearings. They're pretty common. I like to shop locally when I can, so I went to our bearing supply house here in Farmington where I live. I'm assuming they serve a lot of oil field companies, and so one of those bearings, they wanted $37. I'm like, nope, not a fair trade. So I found two of one size that I needed for $8, free shipping. That's more like it. Same brand, same SKU, identical. So yeah, ridiculous overcharge. The point is, do a little research, shop around. Good quality bearings are generally inexpensive. Now, both these bearing races looked like blue Loctite. I didn't have any, so I went ahead and added a little bit of red. You can always break that bond free with heat. I can use a socket to drive that home. This will be more solid over one of the legs of the bench. And okay, that feels good. All right, so the bottom bearing we can do in a similar way, but castings can be a little bit vulnerable to cracking. So I want to add a support. So I just found this block of wood. We can put that in place. Mark it. We can cut it to length. That's going to offer better support. Yeah, I feel better about that. A little bit more Loctite. We'll drive that dude home. And that ugly thing that I made earlier, I believe it'll work well for driving this new bearing home. The kind of long shaft will help align things vertically to ensure that that bearing goes in straight. Of course, that's really important, and that hammer is too small, Ramon. I actually like using a smaller hammer to start it. Once it's nice and straight, then I can grab something a bit bigger. All right, good progress. Now, you can see I have these brushes held back with a little chopstick, actually. And one of them I can access as I put this armature in place. The brushes were good, so no need to change those. Surprisingly good, actually. Remove that dude. Yeah, that feels right. And where these two components join, I believe I had put a magic marker line. I could probably only go one way, but it's good to mark things. As you can see, this is actually going together pretty well. I mean, taking this in to get it repaired would probably be expensive. I love doing this stuff because I can figure out things, save a little bit of money, and learn about these tools or machines. Whack, whack. I like to reduce the clutch to, keep from stripping screw heads. And I had misplaced this screw, but it'll show up, or I can find one from my massive collection of screws, bolts, nuts, washers. And I thought this sounded a little weird, but sometimes new bearings are just kind of tight. Yeah, it'll be fine. So I took the mate to the screw that I was missing to go find one, and then I found the original. So put those back. Yeah, man, we can now connect the plastic case to the motor housing. And I know a lot of people say not to use impacts for stuff like this, but to me, it's just about controlling the trigger, right? No big shake. I know that sounds gritty, but after I ran it for a little bit, it cleared up. It's smooth. We can slip this little screw in that expands that area that holds the bearing in. I'm not really sure. Could look at it a little bit closer and figure that out, but I'm just putting things back how they go, man. I'll grab a collet wrench to add some torque. That should be good. Now we can add this guy back in place. And oops, sorry about that. Jacked up my finger. I'm gonna have to get some tape or super glue or something. All right, I'm just gonna fast forward through a lot of this stuff, just putting the wiring back. This is something I wanted to share. Anytime I'm working with a Phillips screw that is maybe dainty and I don't want to jack it up, I'll use a drill and set the clutch way low. Makes sense, yeah? And I think I mentioned that already, but do it. Just do what I say. I cannot stand jacked up Phillips heads. Pet peeve. So at the time, I only had $1 in my pocket, but I have literally put hundreds of dollars all over the place, behind cabinets, behind drawers, underneath countertops. It's just a little surprise for someone one day. Make sure that switch slides. Speed control. Little cover is kind of finicky to get in place. That all looks right. We can button it up. And a quick test. I love the speed control on these Porter cables. Large bits, you can dial that way down. Super useful. And I apologize, this portion of the clip is a little out of focus. Not sure what happened. But I wanted to show you this. I use a piece of double stick tape on a flathead screwdriver to put that little brass keeper in there. That prevents the mechanism from marring that cylinder. We can just drop that in place. I don't know how else you would do that. But this works well. Okay, let's blast past this blurry crap. Next, it's the springs and retainers, and this is a little tricky. I mean, you could really use help from a buddy or maybe 3 arms, but they go in. They just takes a little persuasion. All right, there we go. Once that's set, we can lock the handle and add these retainer nuts. Tighten those up. Boom. That part's done. And we're back blurry again. I'm sorry. Depth rod. Super simple router. Doesn't have all the bells and whistles like a Festool, which I don't have a Festool, but I've seen them and they look awesome. But these Porter cables, man, I got to tell you, they are workhorse beasts. All right, I wanted to show you this. Older style router plates had countersunk holes with countersunk bolts. It just doesn't make sense, right? There's no way to precisely center the plate or make it concentric with the router bit. However, check out what I did here. I can show you on this old busted one. Instead of a countersink, I just used a Forstner bit and made a counterbore. The bolt hole has a little bit of slack, and now that dude can move around. Now, you can buy these centering cones. I made this one. But essentially what happens is you put that in place of the bit and it goes up inside the collar, and with the screws slightly loose, you can move that around until it centers. The bolts were probably hex at one point. I ground them down thinner and then used a grinder with a cutoff wheel or maybe even a hacksaw to cut a slot for a slotted screwdriver. I clean my collet and the mating conical part every single time I add a router bit. Super important. All right, don't give me any crap about WD-40 not being a lubricant and blah, blah, blah. I like it because it's a light oil. It doesn't attract dust, as you can see. Oh yeah, and check this out. This is why that nut that I put on with the air impact doesn't have to be crazy tight. The direction of the motor ensures that it's going to tighten on its own. And that's going to do it for this video. We are back in business for another 20 years. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. Thank you tons.